Over 2,000 languages, but united with similar interests. As news breaks, we give you in-depth analysis around Africa every Monday on Core TV News.
Very good to have you on this week's episode of the program Around Africa, where we bring to you top issues rocking the continent. I'm your host, Brownson Nnwana. This week on the program, we'll be looking at the foreign aid to Africa. How well has this helped the continent? There have been a lot of arguments, there have been a lot of debates, and some people have said that the foreign aid has really helped Africa to develop, and some other quarter says it has only made Africa to become lazy. But I'm not going to answer that question today. Ejiro Nobrakbe is joining me on the program today, and he will be throwing more light on this topic. Ejiro, good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, foreign aid, of course, some statistics have said that between 1970 and 1981, when aid flowed to Africa, where the flow of aid to Africa were about 97%. Between that period till now, we've seen poverty rates increase. Overall, how would you see foreign aid to Africa?
Well, foreign aid, I mean, like support of any type, is important, but not to the extent that we become dependent on it. And we cannot think for ourselves, or we cannot develop our ideas to a logical point. We must look at our uniqueness as a people, and our rate of growth depends on how we can mature, how early we can mature and become a country, a continent that can develop ideas and take it to the next level. Don't get me wrong that foreign aid is not good. In issues where there are critical crises, yes, we expect our big brothers from all over the world to come and contribute and help us get out of that emergency situation. But not a situation whereby we keep expecting money to be doled out to us by our big brothers every time, you know, every year there's budget for Africa, you know, and we shouldn't just expect that.
At what extent should the aid come?
Well, like I said, I think aid should come, one, in crisis situations. Two, aid should come as a result of helping a country to develop to the next level. For example, through education, healthcare, you know. So it's not as if you're just pumping money into that country. Because again, there's also the argument that if you pump money into a country and you're giving aid to that country, at the end of the day, the country begins to dictate what they would like you to do for them, either on the short term, medium term, or long term. So there's sometimes an impartial relationship which does not work too well.
Now, do you also agree that foreign aid has really helped Africa to underdevelop?
Well, I would not say necessarily to underdevelop, but I will say that there should be a growth direction that Africa can help themselves to grow, because Africa is different from the rest of the world. The rest of the world have grown at their own pace. Their challenges are not really our challenges. So we can't look at them and say, oh, this is how we must go. But we must be able to decide and define the direction with which we want to grow, so that we can, as a people, get to a point and even begin to help other people. So we don't want to be dependent. We don't want to be such that we're just thinking about, oh, where is the next money coming from? Where is the next money from? Apart from that, sometimes we're not sure that this aid, the way it is disbursed, is transparent. That's another issue with our society, where we have issues of corruption. You know, we're not sure. So we have sometimes the donor agencies or the donor governments coming directly to actually disburse this money or disburse these projects, you know.
Okay, and some arguments, of course, a lot of people have also argued that, don't forget that Nigeria recapitalization recently made Nigeria the biggest economy in the world, putting South Africa behind, and of course, Egypt's economy as the third largest in the world. But overall, some foreign analysts have come out to say that Africa's economic growth is dependent, or is based on the aid we get from the big brother, just like you said.
Yeah. Well, if we look at the size of the economy in Nigeria, we should really look at the indexes that they say make us become the biggest economy in Africa. Are people becoming richer or poorer? Are the poor people, are their salaries being increased? Is the healthcare more available to them? Is their housing better? I'm talking of basic things. So you see, we can't really say that some of these stories that Nigeria has become the biggest economy, there are some critical indices rather, that must be looked at. And by so doing, I don't believe that the aid that is given to us is what is responsible for the growth of our economy. I don't believe that. I believe, like I said earlier on, that as a people, we must sit down to look at the direction with which our country is going to. The peculiarity of the people, the weather, the kind of crisis we have, anticipated crisis, and begin to grow gradually. I mean, we can get help from people.
Now, if like looking like for instance, Nigeria and of course South Africa, and don't forget even the Egypt now, they have their own fair share of crises rocking the continent, and these are supposed to be the powerhouse of the continent. Now, if the economy is this big, don't forget Nigeria is still searching for the over 200 missing girls, and now there are also foreign aid coming in. If the economy is this big, why do we really need this foreign assistance?
Exactly, which means that we haven't dealt with the basic challenges of our people, of us as a people. We haven't dealt with those basic challenges. So we cannot say the economy is really that big. We can't say we may be doing more trade, we may be doing more businesses with in international conglomerates, but are the people better off? Is humanity as Africans, are we going to a next level? I don't agree with it. I don't think so. I think that's a difficult take.
Now, what do you think the problem is? Is it the fact that the government ruling these countries are really not civilized enough?
The what? The
governments, like African leaders, are really not getting, they're not civilized enough.
Well, it's very important for leadership to be sincere. It's very important for leadership to be mass-oriented. That is, the objective is to make the masses better off than they were before. And not only that, to sustain the growth, the economic growth, that is primarily by what they are producing and what they are selling. Now, a lot of the countries that we're saying gives us foreign aid, I would like to say sometimes they're not even fair in how they purchase our goods.
How do you mean?
Well, for example, the barrel of oil, the price of the barrel of oil is determined abroad. The price of cocoa is determined abroad. If they really want to be fair, they should ensure that we'll get what we consider to be right. The right pricing, there's a specific right pricing, because we do a lot of work, to get those goods out there. So I think that, first of all, help should come from that direction. Let the pricing be better. If the pricing of some of these goods are better, then yes, we are doing more trade. And rather than aid, I would say trade.
Are you saying special consideration should be given to African products?
Well, they should look at the peculiarity of the products and not underprice them. Some of our products are underpriced because, of course, the consumers abroad are the ones, they say the buyer is a buyer's market. So they are the ones that, we buy cocoa at this price or we buy oil at this price. I think that some of those prices should be fairer. In that way, we're making more money and we're able to develop more people.
All right, of course. Now, what in essence, what you're trying to say is, if a barrel of oil, for instance, is $8,000 in international markets, Africa should be given like maybe 800.
Well, that will be helping. That will be helping. It will definitely be helping. There should be some consideration because of where it is coming from.
But would that solve the problem of the fact that most Africa live below $1 per day?
Well, like I said, if there's sincerity of purpose in leadership, then the objective of the common man is very important. How the common man lives, exists from day to day, and the potential for growth is very important. That will solve most of the problem if we have leadership that is sincere and in that direction.
Now, quickly, before we go for this break, let's also look at the fact that Africa generally as a continent, big with lots of peculiarities. There have been a lot of, regardless of all those criticism. But do you think Africa can really, sincerely be independent without foreign aid?
Well, we can. It's possible.
How?
It's possible. Africa has a lot of resources. I mean, Africa has a lot of resources. And in all fairness to you, and in all honesty, I think that countries that have resources are being plundered. I think that there's manipulation and they are being plundered. So, you see, our resources, we must be able to harness and manage them properly and be able to sell them in fair markets and make enough money.
All right, of course, at this point, to go for a very quick break. When we come back from the break, we'll be looking at, is foreign aid really the answer to Africa's problems? Stay with us, we'll be discussing that after this time out.
Continent, 54 countries, over 2,000 languages, but united with similar interests. As news breaks, we give you in-depth analysis around Africa every Monday on Core TV News.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, our 24-hour news station.
Ejiro Nobrakbe is still joining me on the program. And quickly, Africa generally, no doubt, we've looked at some of those challenges that have made us not really developed. And also we looked at the fact if we can really go out of this place. But then, is foreign aid really the answer to our myriads of problems?
Well, I would say no. I would say rather than foreign aid, let us be able to trade properly with the rest of the world. It's not just about aid. It's like a child that keeps depending on his father for stipends, even up till adult age. He never matures. He never can plan. And if that stipend does not come, he's not able to do things. He cannot plan. He doesn't become a man. People can't be dependent on him. That's how foreign aid does. Foreign aid can actually spoil a country, make you just dependent. In fact, it's almost some form of slavery, you know, because you will also have to concede to the ideas of the donor countries in an issue that concerns voting or concerns you to come to discuss about moral suasion or things like that. So foreign aid is not necessarily the answer to our problems.
Now, how do you think we can really move out of this now, talking about Africa as a continent?
Well, Africa as a continent must come together to look at their peculiarity as a region. And it is the strength that they have together that will make them get out of the problems. They should look at, first of all, their economic power. They should look at their currency, see how they can harmonize it so that we are speaking really with one voice. They should look at their trade partners and see how, you know, they can, with one voice, develop better trading system. They should look at the government and, you know, if they come together with a kind of united front, they're likely to be able to meet the challenges peculiar to Africans and go to the next level.
All right, Africa generally, some people said Africa has been seen as a dumping ground. Don't forget the likes of China and some other countries, even London. There are some phones they call London used phones, in not just Nigeria, but in most parts of the country. Even in some, most people go as far as even continue to bring in some vehicle, you know. Generally, some people have also said that it has really helped, you know, the low-income earners, you know, to be able to at least enjoy some level of luxury.
I think that we as Africans, we consume too much foreign products. Either second-hand or first-hand. We consume too much. We should look inwards. We should produce things, and we should be the first consumers of those things before we begin to export them. Whatever we consume from abroad, whether it's second-hand or first-hand, is putting a lot of pressure on our foreign exchange. It is putting pressure on our foreign exchange. So therefore, if we don't consume as much, what are we really consuming? What is the benefit of these things? We're talking lifestyle. But you see, Africa as a continent should look beyond today and tomorrow. Where will we be in 20 years' time, in 50 years' time? Will we just be dependent on foreign products? Is that all just what we're going to do? So you see, the concept of Africa being a dumping ground is real. It's true and it's real.
All right, of course. I think it's one of the reasons why the African Union, in their meeting the early part of this year, you know, came out with some resolution and strategy that would help the continent to develop. One of them includes human capacity development, focusing on health, education, science, research, and technology. Of course, don't also forget that the second one also has to do with agriculture and agro-processing.
Yeah, very important. You know, you spoke about human capital development. That's very important. If we can learn from, if there's some kind of technological, if there's genuine technological transfer from the West, it is better than us receiving doles of money. Do you understand? We should get training in certain fields that we can use back home. Even in agroeconomics, we should get those trainings and transfer it back to our country and use it to develop ourselves. I think that is more important than receiving those bills of money and regularly and depending on that money.
All right, of course, so still on the strategics made by the African Union, this one, very interesting, says peace, stability, and good governance. Now, we've seen Africa recently. I think now it's not just peculiar to the northern part of Africa, because even the West Africa, we've had our own fair share in terms of some crisis.
Yeah.
Libya now is a flashpoint, is the strongest part, and lots of countries around that region as well, they've had their own fair share. And the big problem has always been good governance, because if African Union are saying they want to look at some peace and good governance, it has to start from themselves. They have to lead and others follow.
Yeah, very importantly, they have to lead. Some of these wars that eventually happen, some of these crises that happens in Africa, in all reality, is to the benefit of some of the foreign people. At the end of the day, they will be the one that will get the contracts to rebuild the country. They will be the ones that will supply arms and those kind of things. So we have to be careful of the relationship we have with some of those foreign countries. Now, the truth about it is that, yes, there will be challenges among people if they consider that they are not being properly taken care of. There will be problems. That's happened all over Africa. There will be problems. But those problems are not supposed to destroy the country. It is supposed to, bring ideas together. And at the end of the day, for the government, sincere government, to listen to the genuine cry of people, for better living, healthcare, education, and all those kind of things. So you see, now you find out that some foreign bodies at some point or at some time will usually take advantage of such a situation. Take advantage and sell firearms, sell, all sorts of things that will cause problems more. And even bring money and try to rebuild and, So we have to be careful. Let us as a continent deal with our peculiar challenges in a way that will come out better.
Now, looking at military force, don't forget that Mali at this point, divided three factions fighting against themselves. One said they are jihadists, the other one said they are nationalists, and a particular group right now don't even know where they stand. They are in between here and here, and of course, I think that's the group that falls between the group where the Al-Shabaab are really functioning very well. And it brings to this very big problem that we've been facing. Libya, their military have been torn apart. They've got a lot of people infiltrating into their... Even at a point in Nigeria, one of the army chiefs came out to say that bad eggs have infiltrated the Nigerian army. So it brings to a problem. If there's going to be peace and we have to fall back to the military, how can the military in the African region get it right?
Well, it's going to be a difficult thing. I will say that if Africa is not careful, a lot of militancy will take over governance. Because that's what's happening. When people like Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram, it's to a large extent, they are making government very difficult, for the governance very difficult. So you see, we have to be careful about that kind of transition. We have to be careful about that kind of transition. We have to be able to look at some of these grievances and deal with them in a way that they cannot come back again. Now, some of those grievances too, by people like Boko Haram, I consider to be totally unreasonable. However, there must be a way to placate them so that the kind of dangers that they put you and I, into, doesn't happen, All
right, of course. One of the agendas set by the African Union also involved mainstreaming women and youth into government activity. And now, don't forget, Africa is a continent where, at a point, some people even feel women even shouldn't, be part of government. Of course, you won't blame because of the backgrounds. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that it's very important for the value system of the young people to be set right. on what is important for us as Africans. There's nothing wrong with involving women in politics. In fact, sometimes they say women are better politicians, are better managers. So I don't have this problem about gender, politicizing gender. I think that women too should be involved. But like I said, there must be indoctrination of values that can sustain the continent and make the continent greater, because the continent has a lot of resources.
All right, of course, some foreign aid. Now coming back to the issue, like most people said, that now if you look at all the things that we've been looking at and what the African Union set to achieve, this will take time. And now that means that to some extent we still need to depend on foreign aid pending the time that Africa will grow up to be men for themselves. How long do you think this will take?
I don't know, but you see, how long really should we depend on foreign aid? How long? I mean, we're already independent, except you say we are going back to some kind of colonial rule. But we must sit down as a people.
Are we not even experiencing it indirectly? Because, for instance, in Mali, currently, the French government have so much interest in the crisis there.
True. We must be careful about that. We must be careful about how we invite foreign people to help us solve our problems. Problems that are peculiar to us, problems that we know about. We must be careful. Otherwise, by the time they take it to another level, we will not be able to deal with it. And by the time they take over the whole thing, we will not be able to deal with it. We must be careful about it. These problems are not particularly overwhelming. They can be dealt with. We must just look at, what is the individuals, what are they saying? What is their genuine agitation? Genuine agitation should be looked at.
Now, does it mean that the leaders generally are not really genuine in solving the problem of the continent?
Well, to a large extent, we have seen insincere leadership. We have seen leadership that is not... People don't trust the leadership to a large extent. And so, therefore, when leadership says this, they just go back and say, look, let's see what will happen. Nothing will happen. So, leadership must transform. We must have leadership the way we used to have it in the past. We must have people that are nationalists, that the interest of the country goes far beyond their personal interest. The interest of and the growth of the people is far beyond what they will benefit financially or in any other way. Those are the kind of new leaders we're looking at.
All right, of course. Finally, before we say goodbye to the program, now, this is a direct take I want to get now. Are we bigger than foreign aid on the continent, like currently?
Yes, I think so. I think that we should deal more on, rather than foreign aid, trade should be encouraged. Fair trade should be encouraged. The products that we have and we produce in this country should be fairly allowed to enter other environments. Just like you said earlier on that, and which is true, that we are dumping ground for some of the people. They just dump things into the country. They should allow us to be able to sell our products and allow them into those environments.
All right, of course, that's how far we can go in the program. Thank you very much, Ejiro, for making time to come to the studios today.
Thank you very much for allowing me.
All right, of course. It's still yet to be seen if foreign aid is really the answers to Africa's problem. Of course, we've looked at a lot of issues and some ways that Africa can possibly outgrow foreign aid. But as it stands now, it looks like it's going to take a little more time for that stability that we are all clamoring for at this part of the continent, to really come to a reality. If that will happen, every hand has to be on deck. And of course, we have to be patient with our government. In return, expect a very good governance from all the leaders of the continent. My name is Brownson. When on that note, I draw the curtain of the show. We'll be back again next week to discuss some top issues rocking the continent. On behalf of my production crew, thanks for watching and have a wonderful day.
One continent, 54 countries, over 2,000 languages, but united with similar interests. As news breaks, we give you in-depth analysis around Africa every Monday on Core TV News.